with floods and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. Felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one for to give you no pain. La 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 la. After 2 days in the desert sun, my skin began to turn red. After 3 days in the desert fun, I was looking at a riverbed, and the story it told of a river that folded made me sad to think it was dead. You see, I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one for to give you no pain. La 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 la. After 9 days I let the horse run free, 'cause the desert had turned to sea. There were plants and birds and rocks and things, and sand and hills and rings. The ocean is a desert with its life underground, and the perfect skies above. Under the cities lies a heart made of ground, but the humans will give no love. You see, I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one for to give you no pain. La 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 la.
All right, welcome to Out and About with Elk River Lutheran. I'm Pastor Nathan, and you can see we're really out and about. We'll tell you more about our location here in a moment. If you can guess where we are, go ahead and type it in the comments like we've done before. But as I said, I'm Pastor Nathan. We'll let the rest of the crew introduce themselves.
Jeremy Hulkus, Minister of Congregational Care and Discipleship.
Lisa Sampson, Director of Children, Youth, and Family Ministry.
And I'm Taylor Quinn, the Director of Music and Worship.
Well, and I will tell you, it is a little bit of a story how we came to be here. Our theme for this week is they're in the desert, and so here we are in a deserted place. That part's actually pretty accurate. But we had another plan, didn't we, everybody?
Yep.
We did. We were all set up and ready to record at actually the old Saxon Auto dealership on Highway 10. You know, kind of this big, expansive, abandoned parking lot with lots of weeds growing in the cracks, and it looked pretty cool. And what happened as our first obstacle to that plan?
A police officer showed up.
That's right. The Popo showed up, and they said, we can't record there no more.
Yep.
So they asked us to move along, and we asked, well, can we set up on the public sidewalk right here in front? And they said, oh, yeah, I guess you can. That's public. And so we set up. And then what happened?
Rain.
Then it started to rain.
It rained in the desert.
We are almost 3 hours in to this recording session, and we are just starting. And so we've moved to, if you haven't guessed yet, we have moved Elk River Lutheran Church, the sanctuary, which for obvious reasons has been a pretty deserted place for these last several months. Yes. And so you get a little different angle than our regular setup. Usually we're camera facing that way on Sunday mornings. And so we're out and about, a little less out this week, but still glad that you are with us as we reflect on God's creation, and in particular think about the desert places here today. And so we're going to continue with another song as we get started. Want to say a word about this song, Taylor, at all as we get started?
Yeah, this song is to the tune of Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, but the words are Praise the One who breaks the darkness. Praise the one who breaks the darkness with a liberating light. Praise the one who frees the prisoners, turning blindness into light. Praise the one who preached the gospel, healing every dread disease, calming storms and feeding thousands with the very bread of peace. Praise the one who blessed the children with a strong yet gentle word. Praise the one who drove out demons with a piercing two-edged sword. Praise the one who brings cool water to the desert's burning sea. From this well comes living water, quenching thirst in every land. Praise the one true love incarnate, Christ who suffered in our place. Jesus died and rose for many, that we know may God by grace. Let us sing for joy and gladness, seeing what our God has done. Praise the one redeeming glory. Praise the one who makes us one.
Well, thank you, Taylor, Nathan, and Jeremy. That was awesome.
And good job to you, Lisa.
Thank you. Our reading tonight comes from Isaiah chapter 35, and Taylor and I are going to read that for you. The desert and the parched land will be glad. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom. Like the crocus, it will burst into bloom. It will rejoice greatly and shout for joy. The glory of Lebanon will be given to it, the splendor of Carmel and Sharon. They will see the glory of the Lord and the splendor of our God. Strengthen the feeble hands, steady the knees that give way. Say to those with fearful hearts, be strong, do not fear. Your God will come. He will come with vengeance, with divine retribution. He will come to save you. Then the eyes of the blind will be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped.
Then will the lame leap like a deer, and the mute tongue shout for joy. Water will gush forth in the wilderness and streams in the desert. The burning sand will become a pool, the thirsty ground bubbling springs. In the haunts where jackals once lay, grass and reeds and papyrus will grow. And a highway will be there. It will be called the way of holiness. It will be for those who walk on that way. The unclean will not journey on it. Wicked fools will not go about on it. No lion will be there, nor any ravenous beast. They will not be found there. But only the redeemed will walk there, and those the Lord has rescued will return. They will enter Zion with singing. Everlasting joy will crown their heads. Gladness and joy will overtake them, and sorrow and sighing will flee away.
Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you. That passage from Isaiah is just so full of just really beautiful imagery, and it's very poetic. And if you were at our service on Sunday, if you tuned in for that one, we were also talking about deserts, and we talked about both the literal deserts, but then also the deserts of our life. And we see that distinction in Scripture as well, like where we have these stories that are set in deserts or wilderness that are also deserts kind of time in people's lives as well, whether it's Jesus being tempted in the wilderness for 40 days by Satan and kind of overcoming that, or the people of Israel wandering for 40 years in the wilderness and being tried and tested in all kinds of ways before finally getting out of the wilderness, I should say. And so as we think about the desert times of our own life, we shared a little bit about that on Sunday, but I think to again get in that kind of space thinking about, because that desert time of life, I think, has that dual kind of place in our role where it can be very difficult and hard. These are hard times, but they can also be times of learning and exploration and even of new life ultimately. And so the question we want to kind of start here to wrestle with is thinking about this COVID-19 time. Now that we are several months into this new COVID-19 reality, how has this time been healing and reframing, and how has it been difficult? I think it's certainly been a little bit of both, absolutely difficult, but then have there been times of healing and learning and kind of reframing how we see things during this time?
For me, especially the reframing, as we get out a little bit more than what we were, I have really found that I think through decisions to go somewhere much more thoroughly than I ever did before. And when I do go there, I returned an online purchase to Macy's Sunday morning right after worship because I knew it'd be it just opened and there wouldn't be very many people there. And I was right, but I didn't linger. I didn't shop. It wasn't fun. I didn't need to be there. And that was a really weird experience because I kind of like to shop once in a while. It's fun.
Yeah.
And so that's been reframed. And thinking about when we gather with friends, it's more important than it used to be. It's, it means more. Don't take it for granted.
I miss window shopping too. Like that was a form of therapy for me.
Yeah.
Sure.
And for Daryl, just getting out and walking around Target and seeing all the pretty colors and new things and whatever,
I always give Annie a hard time for just cruising the end caps, kind of seeing what there is to see.
But that's a thing. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
therapeutic to get out and change of scenery. And, one of the reframing things is figuring out, okay, if I can't do this, what can I do? And that's what's been nice about the Recreation series is that there's been permission and an encouragement to change your scenery, but for scenery that's already existing, not human made, but natural. My biggest challenge has been reframing my work because Nathan and I had talked earlier last week, and maybe you guys have had this discussion with him too, that we have a workshop, but our tools have been taken away. And we have to use new tools. And for me as a musician, I rely on my tools that I've honed and that I've used for years, and now they're not there to use anymore. They've disappeared. And so the effort is to create new tools. And at the same time, it's exciting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, today's a perfect example of this. I mean, these Out and About series, they've just been so fun to record. It's fun doing music with you all and having these conversations and getting to different places. Well, and then sometimes the police kick you out, and then the rain comes, and it's different. A service in this space has never been rained out. The police have never made us leave this space. It's just so much more predictable, and life is less predictable now, and yet there's richness and beauty in it, but it's also like, wow, okay, this isn't how I expected this day to go, but here we are still, and so it's quite an experience.
It's made it very relational.
Yeah.
I mean, what we've been doing has been very relational. It's more of a call and response rather than this is the plan and we got to stick with it, and I think that's part of what has happened during this desert time is you learn to kind of go with the flow,
Yeah.
You know, it drives me nuts not to be able to plan for this fall. But
Right.
what do I know about this fall?
Right.
I can only plan accordingly. So
I spent a lot of time online with different groups of youth ministers talking about what to do. And really nobody knows. I feel kind of funny. I just got a degree in leadership and innovation and nobody knows how to innovate through this time. We're all doing it, but we're doing it together. And so there is that comfort that we're all in the same boat. Nobody has great answers. We're just trying. So we're working really hard
Try to figure it out.
at doing ministry.
you know, it was interesting during my peer group. We'd meet once a month, and one of the guys said, we weren't innovating when we started this, we were adapting.
Yes.
But now we have to innovate. We
Yeah.
have to think differently about something that is now our normal.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
you
right.
know?
Well, I was thinking about that first service we had, right? The first time we recorded in the sanctuary, it was like, oh, what are we doing? This is scary stuff. Like, we have no clue. And we were sort of week to week fly by the seat of our pants. And now it feels like we've found a little bit of a rhythm in newness. And sometimes it's really awkward, and sometimes it's really incredibly life-giving, like that playing music or singing together or watching those comments on our Facebook page.
You know, they never thought we were flying by the
Right.
seat of our pants. We were professionals
We shouldn't
from
tell
day
you this,
one.
but
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
man.
You're not supposed to know behind the scenes that way.
Yeah.
Only
But
the
you're
funny
absolutely
things.
right.
But I think as a community, like, we're learning how to be together even though we can't be. Like, I'm just amazed by the relational conversations people have, the constant calling each other, and things that are coming out of this that seem very new and unique that weren't there 3 months ago,
Yeah.
or weren't there in the same way.
Yeah.
And so it's really unique to think about how does the church sort of find that new life in the midst of a space of uncertainty. And I think we're all sort of going, okay, what's next? What's the next thing that's going to happen that
Yeah.
we need to deal with? But
Yeah, this new life kind of brings me. I wanted to go back to the Isaiah passage and read the first couple verses again, because I think it's the whole passage is full of such beautiful language. But this first verse, as we think about new life in the desert space, is all about that. So I'm going to read these couple verses from Isaiah 35, 1 and 2. The desert and the parched land will be glad. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom like the crocus. It will burst into bloom. It'll rejoice greatly and shout for joy. And so, in the midst of really difficult time, I love this image of flowers blooming in the desert. I mean, one, it's just a beautiful image. But then, specifically they mention the crocus, that in the wilderness, this place of desolation and hardship, the crocus will bloom. And so you all know what the crocus is known for, right? Like, what is it?
It's the first flower of spring.
Right? Yeah,
Even when there's snow.
Exactly. It blooms in winter pretty much. And so it's that first hint that winter is coming to an end, that there's going to be new life at the end of this season. And so as we think about ourselves in the midst of this COVID-19 season, it leads me to the question and the wondering, are you seeing crocuses during this COVID-19 time? That's kind of a big, hard question. Are there signs or reminders that this won't last forever, that there is new life coming? Are we seeing those yet?
Well, I can tell you just out of our conversation right now that I think the crocus that I'm seeing is that bonding is happening.
Yeah.
When you're in the same household as your spouse or your kids, when you're doing this with the staff sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, I really, really will be surprised if those bonds aren't strengthened and it carried through when the pandemic has let up, you know.
I personally find it hard sometimes to find that crocus.
Yeah.
It's the last couple of weeks have been harder, I think, as the reality that this is going to go on for a lot longer than we ever expected. I'm a trooper, hang in there. But as it's gone long, and now we know it's going to be longer yet, that's really disheartening to me. But as we were just talking here, I thought of something. You said it about innovation and about adapting. And I think what the crocus that's coming out of this is, how do we reach more people? And how do we be Christ to others in a different way, and we're forced to find this different way.
Hmm.
And so however we come out of this, we're going to be better and stronger, and that's my crocus for right now. I think that's something that we can hang our hats on and to look forward to with hope.
Because, yeah, it's hard to find motivation and keep moving. Like, it was kind of near the end of last winter, my snowblower broke down. And so I had to shovel the rest of the winter, and that was fine. And, you know, because the trailer that we have was buried in snow, I couldn't get it out. It was iced in. And so I was like, I'll just get it fixed in the spring. So by the time next winter comes. Well, like, now I'm like, I really need to be getting the snowblower into the shop because winter is coming, right? I mean, we know this, that winter's gonna come. So, you know, I've got to be doing this work now, like get it working so when that comes, I'm ready for it. And I feel like, you know, that's kind of where we're at with this whole time. It's like, okay, we're in this for a while, so what are the things we can be doing to, you know, keep moving forward? You know, not necessarily like getting ready for winter for the next season, but how are we going to keep living in this season that, like you said, is stretching much longer than we thought it would? Like, what are the good things that are keeping us sane and alive that we need to hold on to and lean into? And what are the things that we're just kind of running in circle that we maybe need to cut loose or, you know, just accept that this can't be in this season, you know? And that's kind of an abstract thought, but I think more specific examples come to my mind like, okay, we got to get ready for this.
As you're saying this, I'm thinking of the movie Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray in it, right? So he wakes up every day and the same pattern, same thing goes on and on and on and on. And what does it take for him to change is ultimately compassion towards someone else, right? It's about caring for someone beyond himself, and all of a sudden the world opens up to him. And I was like, oh man, that's pretty much the season we're sitting in of, you know, the world will get better when we learn to care about each other. And I think that's something that I'm seeing starting to blossom more and more is we're actually caring about people beyond ourselves. You see that in the movements happening, you're seeing it in the world, hopefully, and yet there's still some resistance to this too. Like it's a both and. But I feel like as we exit this thing, the one thing that's going to kind of hold us together is that sense of compassion. You know, that love that Jesus has carried to someone else.
Yeah, because I think the sad reality is that we're not getting out of this anytime soon. And so the virus is going to come closer and closer to home. You know, like as more and more people, you know, we know people who know people, like, you know, and I hope that leads us into closer relationship with one another. Not like, okay, we gotta like, you know, just keep our social distance. No, I mean the physical distancing, yes, but we need to be connected with one another and act in such a way that we're looking out for one another. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
I love there's such a beauty for me. There's such a beauty in deciding to practice your spirituality, and you're talking about compassion, and it's easy to do it when you feel it. But when you decide to practice it, that's when the true change inwardly comes. Then you know you're doing something good.
Yeah.
You know? I just love the idea of deciding to practice your spirituality and to choose to have compassion on others.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, now that you brought that up, that is definitely a crocus right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see it so much. Every once in a while I see it, but knowing that it's happening and knowing that I can be part of that is a crocus right now.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's interesting, like I love this text in Isaiah that you read, but the very first sentence always just sort of hangs with me, right? The desert and the parched land will be glad.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that sense of like, out of something that can be intrinsically terrible, comes this very beautiful thing where the desert itself learns to rejoice. I think that's that sense of like the desert has potential energy. And how do we think about that sort of moving through rather than sort of dwelling in? I'm looking forward to the day that people come to church. Like, I'm missing that so terribly. And I think that's the one thing, like, when that reality ultimately comes, I can imagine the sense of joy that's going to burst in this church.
Yeah.
You know, people finding each other.
The last part of our reading says exactly what you said. Gladness and joy will overtake them, and sorrow and sighing will flee away.
Right.
And that's what it's going to be like when we can gather again and and love each other with hugs.
Yeah, right.
We miss hugs.
More than a screen wave kind
Yeah.
of death,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, the song we're going to do next here, I think, speaks to this too. It is well with my soul. And I think a couple of thoughts come to mind. One is that it is okay to not be okay right now. Like, we need to just name that this time is hard and it's okay to not be okay. But I think it's also worth pointing out that I think it can be well with our soul even when things are in turmoil, right? Like, even when the world around us seems to be falling apart or, you know, just scary or unknown, we can find a stillness that is still very real and true, that those aren't competing things, that they can be simultaneous. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about this song?
This song is called It Is Well. It's inspired by the song It Is Well With My Soul, the one that we know so well. The latter part of it, we will reference it, and so you can sing with us, but it is a newer song, and I hope that you have heard it and can sing along, or that it also strikes deep within your soul.
So as we continue worship, we invite you into a time of prayer. We invite you to post your prayers on our Facebook page or Zoom page. Let us know how we as a community gathered together can pray for you at this time.
Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well with me. Grand earth has quaked before, moved by the sound of your voice. Seas that are shaken and stirred can be calmed and broken from my regard. Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well with me. Far be it for me to not believe, even when my eyes can't see. And this mountain that's in front of me will be thrown into the midst of the sea. Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well with me. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul.
Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we give you thanks for those spaces that can be a little bit tough. We pray that you would watch over our spirits and our hopes as we look for those crocuses in the midst of these spaces. Help us to see joy in places that can be challenging and difficult. Lord, we entrust the prayers of this community gathered together into your loving and gracious hands. Watch over us as we go about our ways, as we enter into your creation anew. Help us to see eyes of wonder and hope, and gather together, may we lift and continue to lift each other up in spirit. We entrust all these things to your name, and to your Son's name, who taught us how to pray. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
So as we go from here, whether you find yourself in a deep, dark, and lonely desert right now, or maybe you're in a bit of an oasis and finding some joy and life in this life, go with this blessing. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord's face shine on you with grace and mercy. May the Lord look upon you with favor and give you peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rings. The first thing I met was a fly with a buzz and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. You see, I've been through the desert on a horse with no name, and it feels good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one for to give you no pain. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. One more time. La 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 la.
Nice. All right, well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next time.